The fifth section of Era Constitution is freedom. And this is represented by the bone from the pike's head that looks like a butterfly. Era freedom is the freedom to choose. Going back to the earlier section on balance and the choice between good and evil, it's also a choice of how you're going to respond with your abilities. Freedom is to discover one's abilities, to take the time to nurture and nourish that which one already knows that one can express, and to make a choice to do internal reflection on what other abilities one can develop. And then freedom to choose how to respond with them, and when, and in which situations. Freedom to decide what one is going to implicate in: buying responsibly, voting responsibly, consuming responsibly, educating oneself so that one is better able to know the consequences of choices. This is all part of eco-responsibility, and one is free to do all of that or none of it. One is free to decide how small a step one is ready to take, or how large a leap one is prepared to be engaged with. Freedom is a constant. We are free. No one can tell us what to do. Can we together motivate each other to make good choices in our freedom and to work together voluntarily? Are we free to navigate and chart our destiny, which is the next piece? Are we free to decide how we're going to work, how we're going to expend our efforts so that our actions make a difference and that our collective actions are greater than the sum of the parts? And are we free to be strategic in how we organize and how we plan? All of this is necessary. Freedom of expression, freedom of existence, freedom of choice, freedom of how to apply oneself, freedom of how to act, how to engage, freedom of spirit, freedom of thinking, freedom of feeling and being in the flow of one's feelings, freedom of existence. Era involves the freedom not just of humans, but of all beings. So the freedom of animals, the freedom from suffering, the freedom from oppression, the freedom from war and violence, the freedom of identity, and how one identifies, the freedom to do good in the world, and yes, the freedom to be selfish or greedy or nasty or hateful. But that's a choice. Does one really want to use one's freedom to do that? The freedom to be a slave to the system, or the freedom to be a free agent that seeks to collaborate with other like-minded, like-spirited people who care about the world. Freedom to care. And then freedom from misinformation, freedom from cynicism and apathy. Era requires that we're free of malicious campaigns to brainwash people and confuse them and feed them lies. We need to be free of authoritarian power holding at the expense of all else. We need to be free of short-term profit motives guiding the future evolution of humanity. We got to be free of the stranglehold that our economic system has as it is fully implanted in the consumption of resources, the destruction of nature, the enslavement of people, and the belching out of garbage and pollution to no avail, except for the continued profit of those on top at the expense of everything else. Freedom from the illusion that we are free, as speaking from the Western perspective, here I am, a Canadian, which grew up in, maybe the easiest time in the world, where the world was your oyster. I'm just at the end of the baby boomers and the beginning of Generation X, so I'm a bit different because, the bubble was already being broken. And it's fully burst now. So, freedom from lies. The illusory American dream, which is wholly based on waging war on ecology and greenwashing it in a way that people keep it out of mind, out of sight, out of mind, and go into denial. Freedom from denial. We have to face our reality. We're free to remain in denial if we want, but that's not going to lead us very far on a pathway to our future, where we're thriving. Freedom to thrive, freedom to flourish, freedom to dream, freedom to believe that another world is possible. Freedom to have a dream. I have a dream. It's called Era. Freedom of speech, which means no censorship, and goodwill. Freedom to have goodwill, and freedom to choose how we apply ourselves to our own conscious evolution, and how collectively we apply ourselves to our social evolution. Yeah, that's freedom.